Hi, welcome to the lecture on the labor exploitation and the surplus value. This is the um, kind of key lecture when we consider the Marxian concepts, the critical Marxian concepts. In many ways, Marxian framework is built on the exploitation and surplus value concepts, basically. Um, let's start from the question we have left in the previous lecture, which was basically we have seen that when you act as a capitalist in an economic system, you start with a money M. You buy commodities with it. You may or may not transform those commodities to other commodities, which might be done through production process, and then sell those commodities and then get money back. But the money you got should be more than the money you had previously used, because the aim of this process is to earn money. So to get more money than you have paid before. So uh, where does this money come from? This is the primary answer question. I'm sorry. But before answering this question, we should define, we should make one important definition, basically, which is the definition on capital, because capital for Marx is different from capital that is used in the mainstream neoclassical economics. So let me first define what capital is in the mainstream economics. Capital in mainstream economics basically means that means of production, like the machines and infrastructure, as I told, and it is assumed that this capital enters to the production as an active producing factor. So, for example, the raw materials don't enter to the production as an active factor. So they are not produced; they are worked upon, and something is produced with them. But capital, the machines, the tools are taken as uh, well part of active producing factors, which means they also produce. So they and workers come together to produce something. And under these factors, wage is equal to the revenue that would be lost if one worker would in a factory would quit, and profit is equal to the revenue that would be lost if capital is used. Capital used in production would decrease by $1, which means the quality of some machine or something will decrease by $1. Um, so how will productivity fall if this $1 will be reduced? If you're interested in neoclassical economics and don't know it, probably most of you have already taken the Introduction to Economics course. But if you didn't, and if you want to know more of it, you can ask me and I can suggest you readings. You can also find yourself readings. Actually, it's a very you can find easily resources on it. But when we are talking on Marx, what can we say for capital? Well, at first you might get the impression Marx has thinks that capital is not important, since he thinks that labor is the only active factor that contributes to the production. This is wrong. In fact, capital is very important for Marx, and it's basically clear since he has given his famous book named Capital. Although capital contains much more than what the neoclassical economics is in a way telling people it contains. So what is capital? Capital is the wealth that controls the production. So typically I would do this. I would say if I take a money bill out of my pockets, for example, this one, this is not capital. Why this is not capital? Because this money bill is not controlling the production process. It has no effect in shaping, designing um, the production process or directing inputs to one production of one commodity or the other. Of course, as a consumer, I might do that, but I am not the decision maker. The decisions are made. By the people who have capital, and capital gives is the wealth that gives them that power. So, if this money is used to get that power, in that case, that this money will become capital. Otherwise, that money won't become capital. It is just the money, just the money. No, just note that well, something like Apple could be a good but not a product. Only under certain conditions, the same physical object with same physical properties get a different function. Similarly, money, only if it has a special role, has function of capital. And in order to be able to do that, it should exceed the threshold level. Because if I have just 100 Turkish lira, probably there is no way for me to use this money to, well, control any type of production process. If I had $1 billion, or I don't know, the threshold is probably below that, how much below might depend, basically. But let's say $1 billion, I will be able to use this money, this wealth, to control production process, buy production facilities, basically, or buy shares so that I can control the production, the companies that have the ownership of those facilities. However, I may choose to do that, or I may not choose to do that. Only if I choose to use this $1 billion to control, I mean, get control, get power in certain companies in the economic system, my wealth becomes the capital. And note that I have given the name wealth. So wealth is not only money. Wealth is everything that is that has a value and that belongs to certain people. But sometimes you can also call national wealth. Rarely, wealth for the humanity is used. Usually, wealth is more a subgroup of the humanity has wealth, because kind of the value of wealth is realized under transactions between the people. So when we are talking on humanity cannot have interaction with other people. Wealth that acts as capital, the wealth itself also, but wealth that acts capital naturally, has different forms. Before it starts the production, it has the money form. Then the capitalist, let's say, buys inputs of production. Those inputs of productions, for example, if we talk on a furniture company, the wood, basically, and the machines, which are also inputs of production according to Marx, have a value. The capitalists could still sell them back and get money, basically, and that means those inputs become the wealth of the capitalists. So the wood becomes the wealth. So wealth transforms from money to the inputs of production. Well, once those inputs are used and outputs are created, the capital transforms, or the wealth transforms, into the outputs of production. So capital, just like wealth, starts its circulation as money. Then the inputs of production, like wood, become capital of the businessman, and then the outputs of production become capital, and finally, when those outputs are sold and money is gained back, the capital transforms once again into the money form. Of course, this money should be more than the previous money at the starting point. Basically, so this whole process, through this whole process, capital gets different form. So, what does labor takes? What is the role of labor in this process? I mean, how can we put labor into this process? Well, we can put it in this way. Between these points, the capitalists also go to the workers. They pay wages, and they got in return their labor power. So once they pay wages and they make the contract, they got the labor power of the workers, and as a result, of course, the payments might be done afterwards, but it's also true for the wood, by the way. They might buy wood, but they might say, okay, we will make the payments 30 days later. And 30 days later, they might already have made the furniture and sold them and got the money back. But just to visualize it, you might assume that the workers are paid and their labor power is taken, and that labor power is input of production, which is owned by the company. So since the labor is owned by the company or the businessman, that labor, the labor of the worker, is capital of the businessman. So labor is a form of capital from the perspective of the businessman. After the production is done, the value of labor gets into the furniture. So the capital, which was in the form of labor, transforms into the form of the output, which is, in our example, furniture, basically. And once that furniture is sold, then the capital, which was once in a labor form, transforms back into the money form. So that's basically what the relation between capital and labor. Labor is part of the capital owned by the company. And if you think about that, actually, it's not like labor and workers and capitalists come together and they say, okay, you give rent, you give the labor, and you give the we contribute with our labor power, and you contribute with our machines, and in return we will make the output. I mean, the factories are not function as a partnership of the capitalists and the workers, basically, where basically workers come with their labor power and capitalists come with the machines they have rented. Rather, the factories function under the ownership of the capitalists, who also own. They don't only pay money to the means of production, they also pay money to the labor power of their workers, which basically means that labor power is part of their capital. Okay. So now, in the next part, we will see the production process more detail. But in Capital, Marx talks about two different models. One of them is more common and mostly we will focus on that. But the other one is also mentioned, so I will mention it in this part. So the first one is focusing on the exchange value. The second one is focusing on the labor time used by the workers, and how this labor time is, how can we model the production using this labor time that is used by the workers. It will focus on that.